3 weeks ago, I had to physically block my sister from barging into my dad's ICU room while he was sedated because she was demanding the doctors wake him up right now so the family could have a democratic vote about his treatment. The nurse had to call security. My brother filmed the whole thing and posted it on Facebook with the caption, "This is what power does to people." That's where we are now. But let me back up and explain how we got here because I'm starting to wonder if I really am the monster my family thinks I am. I'm 34F, the middle child of three. My older sister Emma, 38F, is a real estate agent who thinks every problem can be solved with the right negotiation tactics. My younger brother Jake, 29M, well, he's always been the family mediator, the can't we all just get along type, but he's also never had to make a hard decision in his life because the rest of us always handled everything. Dad is 67, retired mechanic, stubborn as hell, but has always been crystal clear about his wishes. Mom died 4 years ago from cancer, and watching her suffer through aggressive treatments that ultimately didn't work really shaped Dad's perspective on end-of-life care. 2 years ago, completely unprompted, Dad asked me to be his medical power of attorney. Not Emma, even though she's older. Not Jake, even though he's the precious baby boy. Me. Here's how that conversation went. Dad, Sarah, I need to talk to you about something serious. Me. What's up, Dad? Dad, I want you to be my medical power of attorney. I've been thinking about it since your mother passed, and you're the one I trust to actually follow my wishes instead of doing what makes you feel better. Me? Dad, that's a huge responsibility. Are you sure? What about Emma or Jake? Dad, Emma would argue with every doctor until they agreed to keep me alive on machines for 20 years because she can't accept when a fight is over. And Jake. Long pause, Jake would just defer to whatever Emma wanted because it's easier than dealing with conflict. I need someone who'll do the hard thing even when it's not popular. Me. What are your wishes? We should probably write this all down. Dad. No heroic measures. If there's a real chance I can recover to a decent quality of life, fine. But I don't want to end up like some of the guys I know, stuck in a nursing home, not recognizing anyone, being a burden on my kids. Your mother and I talked about this a lot before she died. She regretted doing the extra chemo round. Said if she had it to do over, she'd have chosen more time at home instead of more time fighting a losing battle. We spent the next 3 hours going over scenarios. Dad was incredibly thorough, probably the most serious conversation we'd ever had. He made me promise that I wouldn't let the family guilt me into ignoring his wishes. They'll say they know what's best for me, but I'm telling you right now what's best for me. Promise me you'll remember that. I promised. I also suggested he have the same conversation with Emma and Jake, so everyone would know his wishes directly from him. He said he would, but in his own time. I don't think he ever did have that conversation, which is part of why we're in this mess now. 3 months ago, Dad started having some health issues, fatigue, confusion, forgetting things. We thought maybe it was just normal aging stuff, but Emma insisted he see a doctor. The tests revealed early-stage dementia, likely Alzheimer's. The doctor said he could have months or years of decent functioning left, but eventually it would progress. Dad took the news surprisingly well. He sat us all down, this time he'd include Emma and Jake, and said, Dad, well, this changes the timeline on some things I've been putting off. Sarah has my medical power of attorney, and I want you all to know that she knows what I want. When the time comes, and I mean when I can't recognize you anymore, or when I'm just a shell of myself, I don't want to be kept alive artificially. I want to go with dignity. Emma immediately jumped in. Dad, don't talk like that. There are new treatments all the time, and you might have years left. Dad. Emma, I'm not giving up. But I'm also not pretending this isn't happening. Sarah knows what to do when the decisions need to be made. Jake just nodded along, but I could tell he was uncomfortable. 2 weeks ago, everything went to hell. Dad had what we now know was a stroke. Emma found him at his house, unconscious, and called 911. By the time I got to the hospital, he was stable but sedated, and the doctors were running tests to determine the extent of the damage. The neurologist pulled me aside. The stroke was significant. He's going to have some permanent deficits, likely speech and mobility issues. But here's the bigger concern. It seems to have accelerated his dementia progression significantly. Even if he recovers from the stroke, his cognitive state is going to be much worse than before. This is where things got complicated. The doctors needed to know whether to pursue aggressive interventions. There was a clot they could potentially remove with surgery, but it was risky and might not help much given the dementia progression. There were decisions about feeding tubes if he couldn't swallow safely. Lots of decisions. As his medical POA, I asked for all the options and prognosis. The doctors were thorough. Best case scenario, Dad would need full-time care, might not recognize us consistently, and would have significant quality of life limitations. Worst case, he'd be in a vegetative state. I asked what Dad would want based on our conversations. The answer was clear. He would not want aggressive measures that would just prolong suffering without meaningful recovery. So I made the decision to focus on comfort care rather than aggressive interventions. When I told Emma and Jake about my decision, Emma lost her mind. Emma, you can't just decide to let Dad die. We need to try everything. Me, Emma, this is what Dad explicitly told me he wanted. He was very clear about not wanting to be kept alive if he couldn't have quality of life. Emma, that was before. He couldn't have known it would be like this. If he were conscious, he might feel differently. Jake, maybe we should, I don't know, wait and see? Get a second opinion? Me? Jake, I did get a second opinion. 3 doctors have all said basically the same thing. And Dad specifically told me he didn't want us to put off these decisions hoping for miraculous recoveries. Emma, this is insane. You're talking about our father. We should be deciding this as a family, not having you dictate terms like some kind of dictator. Me? I'm not dictating anything. I'm following Dad's wishes as he expressed them to me when he appointed me as his medical POA. Emma, well, maybe that was a mistake. Maybe he should have chosen someone who actually cares about keeping him alive. That's when I realized this wasn't really about Dad's medical care. This was about Emma feeling like she should be in control because she's the oldest, and Jake feeling guilty because he never really thought about what Dad would want. But it got worse. Emma started calling other family members, aunts, uncles, cousins, telling them I was trying to kill Dad and that the family needed to intervene. She created a group chat with extended family titled Save Dad and started sharing articles about miracle recoveries and new dementia treatments. Jake, meanwhile, was being pulled in both directions. He'd agree with me in private. You're probably right. Dad wouldn't want this. But then he'd buckle whenever Emma applied pressure. But what if we're wrong? What if we give up too soon? The worst part was when Emma brought our teenage cousins to the hospital and had them say goodbye to Grandpa as if I was about to murder him. She actually used those words with a 16-year-old. Say goodbye now because Sarah won't let us try to save him. Which brings us to 3 weeks ago and the incident I mentioned at the beginning. Dad had been stable but unconscious for several days. The doctors had made it clear that even if he woke up, his cognitive function was likely to be severely impaired. I was having daily conversations with his medical team about the best path forward. Emma had been increasingly erratic, demanding to speak to doctors herself. They couldn't give her information because of HIPAA, insisting on getting real, second opinions from doctors she found online, and generally making every hospital visit a nightmare. The final straw was when she barged into his ICU room while he was sedated and started shaking him, yelling, "Dad, wake up. We need to ask you what you want." The nurse tried to stop her, but Emma pushed her aside and kept trying to wake him up. I physically stepped between Emma and Dad's bed. Me, Emma, stop. You need to leave right now. Emma, I'm not leaving. This is my father too. We need to wake him up so we can ask him what he wants. Me, the doctor said not to disturb him right now. His brain needs rest. Emma, the doctors work for us. We're the family. We should be making decisions together, not having you play God. Jake, Emma, maybe we should dash. Emma, no. This is ridiculous. Dad would want his whole family involved in decisions about his life. Me, Dad specifically chose me for this role because he trusted me to make decisions even when they were unpopular with the family. Emma, that's what someone with a power complex would say. You're enjoying this." That's when she tried to push past me again to get to Dad, and I had to physically block her. The nurse called security. Emma was escorted out, screaming that I was murdering our father and that she was going to get a lawyer. Jake filmed the whole thing. Not to defend me or to show how out of line Emma was being, but because he thought it would be good to have documentation of what happened. Then he posted it on Facebook with a caption about how power changes people and how our family is falling apart. The video went semi-viral in our small town. I've had people I barely know approaching me at the grocery store with opinions about what I should do with my father's care. Emma did get a lawyer. Or rather, she consulted with one, who apparently told her that medical POA is pretty ironclad unless I'm clearly acting against Dad's best interests, which I'm not. She's now focused on trying to get other family members to pressure me into sharing the decision-making. The extended family is split. Dad's sister, my Aunt Carol, supports me because she remembers conversations with Dad about his wishes. But Dad's brother, Uncle Tom, thinks Emma is right that families should decide together. Most of the cousins are staying out of it, but a few have made snide comments on social media about how I'm on a power trip. Jake is still trying to play both sides. He'll text me things like, "I know you're doing what you think is right," but then he'll post on social media about how complicated the situation is and how there are no easy answers, which just feeds into Emma's narrative that I'm being unreasonable. The worst part is that while we're all fighting, Dad is just lying there. He's had a few moments of semi-consciousness, but he's clearly confused and doesn't seem to recognize any of us consistently. Watching him like this, knowing he'd hate being in this state, is destroying me. But every time I try to talk to the doctors about transitioning to comfort care or hospice, Emma finds out somehow and creates a scene. She's accused me of shopping for doctors who will agree to kill him and has demanded that any major decisions be delayed until we can get family consensus. Yesterday, Emma announced that she's organized a family meeting for this weekend where we'll vote on Dad's care. She's invited like 15 people, siblings, aunts, uncles, adult cousins, even some family friends. She wants it to be at the hospital so we can all see Dad together and make a decision as a family. Emma, in the family group chat, this has gone on long enough. Sarah has made it clear she doesn't value family input, but Dad belongs to all of us. We're going to meet as a family and decide together what's best for him. Me? Emma, that's not how medical power of attorney works. Dad chose me for this role specifically. Emma, Dad chose you when he was healthy and couldn't imagine being in this situation. Things are different now. Jake, maybe it would be good for everyone to talk together? Like, not a vote, but just everyone sharing their thoughts. Me? Jake, I've been sharing my thoughts for 3 weeks. I've explained Dad's wishes over and over. Having a big family meeting isn't going to change what he told me he wanted. Emma, what he supposedly told you. Convenient that you're the only one who heard these detailed wishes. Aunt Carol, Emma, your father talked to me too about not wanting to be kept alive artificially. Sarah is right about what he wanted. Uncle Tom, but that was theoretical. Now that it's real, he might feel differently. Shouldn't the whole family have input? And around we go. Here's the thing that's killing me. What if they're right? Not about the power trip stuff. I know that's not what this is about for me. But what if I'm wrong about Dad's wishes? What if, faced with the actual reality of dying, he would want us to try everything? I keep replaying our conversation from 2 years ago. He seemed so certain, so clear about what he wanted. But Emma's right that it was theoretical then. And Jake's right that we can't ask him now what he would want in this specific situation. The doctors have been diplomatically suggesting that we might want to consider comfort care, but they've also said that with aggressive rehabilitation, Dad might recover some function. Not much, and he'd likely need full-time care for the rest of his life, but he might be able to have some quality of life. Is it my place to decide that a diminished life isn't worth living? Even if that's what he told me he wanted? But then I think about what he'd be like if we do everything possible, confused, unable to recognize us, possibly in pain, definitely not the independent man he always was. And I remember him talking about his friend Joe, who's been in a nursing home for 3 years with advanced dementia, how Dad would say, "That's no way to live," every time we'd visit. Oh, And did I mention that this is all played out on social media? Because of course it has. Jake's video of the ICU incident has been shared hundreds of times locally. Emma has been posting daily updates about Dad's condition, which I'm pretty sure violates his privacy, but whatever, and rallying people to support family decision-making over one person's power trip. I haven't posted anything about the situation, which apparently makes me look guilty. People have been commenting on my old posts things like praying for your family during this difficult time and hope you can find peace with your decisions. My best friend finally convinced me to make one post explaining my side, but it felt gross putting Dad's private medical information out there for people to judge. Plus, anything I say just feeds into more drama. Emma shared an article yesterday about a family who fought for their comatose relative, and the person eventually recovered and went on to live 5 more good years. The implication was obvious. If I really cared about Dad, I'd be fighting like that family did. This whole situation has basically consumed my life for the past month. I've had to take FMLA leave from my job because between hospital visits, family drama, and the emotional toll, I can't focus on anything else. My relationship with my boyfriend is strained. He's been supportive, but he's also getting tired of every conversation being about this situation. Last week he said, "I know this is hard, but it feels like you're more invested in being right than in finding a solution everyone can live with." That really stung, because what if he's right? I've lost 12 pounds because I barely eat anymore. I'm not sleeping. I had a panic attack in the hospital parking lot last Thursday and had to sit in my car for an hour before I could go in. But Emma seems energized by the conflict. She's treating this like a crusade, like she's fighting the good fight against a corrupt system, I guess. She's organized, she's recruiting allies, she's got talking points ready for every conversation. Meanwhile, I'm just trying to honor what I believe Dad wanted while dealing with everyone acting like I'm a monster. The doctors and nurses have been professional, but I can tell this situation is wearing on them too. Dr. Richardson, Dad's neurologist, pulled me aside yesterday. Dr. Richardson, "Sarah, I need to be frank with you. This level of family conflict is not uncommon, but it's not helpful for your father's care or for the medical team trying to serve him." I know, and I'm sorry. I've tried to manage it, but my sister won't dash. Dr. Richardson, I'm not blaming you. I can see you're trying to advocate for what you believe your father would want. But I need you to know that we can't make optimal medical decisions in this environment of constant conflict and second-guessing. What would you recommend? Dr. Richardson, honestly, if your father were my father and he had expressed the wishes you've described, I would be having conversations about transitioning to comfort care. His prognosis for meaningful recovery is very poor, and continuing aggressive interventions at this point is likely prolonging suffering rather than preserving life. But what if we're wrong? What if he would want us to try everything? Dr. Richardson, that's the difficult part of being a medical proxy. You have to make decisions based on what you reasonably believe the person would want, not what you want or what makes other people feel better. From everything you've told me, it sounds like your father was very clear about his wishes. But then I think about Emma's argument. Wouldn't most people, faced with the actual reality of dying, want their family to try everything possible? Isn't the will to live stronger than any theoretical conversation about quality of life? The family dynamics are getting more complicated by the day. Dad's side of the family is split pretty evenly, but Mom's side, where I was always closer, is mostly supportive of me. This has created weird alliance patterns that have nothing to do with Dad's actual wishes and everything to do with old family grudges and power dynamics. Uncle Tom, for instance, has never liked that I went to college and have a career instead of settling down and having kids young like Emma did. His support for Emma feels less about Dad's care and more about putting me in my place. Aunt Carol, on the other hand, has always felt like Emma was spoiled and manipulative. Her support for me might be genuine, or it might be about finally seeing Emma get some pushback. My cousin Rachel, who's a nurse, has been trying to stay neutral but finally texted me privately. "You're doing the right thing." I see families go through this all the time, and the person who tries to honor the patient's actual wishes always gets painted as the villain. It sucks, but you're doing what Grandpa would want. But my cousin Mike, Uncle Tom's son, posted on Facebook. Family is everything. When we stop fighting for our loved ones, we lose our humanity. Praying for a miracle for Uncle Jim and for his family to come together. The worst part is the guilt. Not guilt about following Dad's wishes. I still believe I'm doing the right thing there. But guilt about the family falling apart. Emma and I haven't spoken directly in over a week. We communicate only through Jake or in group chats where everything is performative and for the audience of extended family. Jake is stressed to the breaking point trying to mediate between us. He's always been the family peacekeeper, and I think he genuinely believes that if we just found the right way to communicate, we could all agree. He doesn't understand that this isn't a communication problem. It's a fundamental disagreement about values and decision-making. I feel guilty that my relationship with my siblings might never recover from this. I feel guilty that extended family members are having to choose sides. I feel guilty that Dad's final weeks or months are being overshadowed by family drama instead of being focused on him. But I also feel like giving in to family pressure would be betraying Dad in the most fundamental way possible.